Hello and welcome viewers, I am Pia and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the headlines this hour. Amid the escalating war between Iran and the United States, mediators have proposed a 10-day halt to the ongoing strikes. The proposal aims to revive the interim ceasefire deal reached last month between the warring countries. Meanwhile, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has warned that its forces are at the highest level of readiness to counter any possible US infiltration on Iranian sovereign territory. It stated that its ground forces are equipped with updated military systems and are undergoing continuous training. Houthis have declared a naval blockade of Saudi Arabia, citing an eye-for-an-eye retaliation, marking a major escalation in the long-running conflict between Iran and the United States. The Houthi rebels have stated that the latest blockade is in direct response to what it described as Saudi's years-long restrictions on Yemen, which then threatens to now cut off the Bab al-Mandeb Strait. Andy Burnham has been appointed as the Prime Minister of UK by King Charles III after Keir Starmer's formal resignation. He announced that his government would present a new 10-year plan for Britain later this year, stating that it would set out a long-term roadmap to deliver stability, economic growth and better public services. In the deadliest attack in a week-long flare-up of violence in the Black Sea, the Russian missile strike near Ukraine's southern port of Odessa has claimed 10 lives. 4 crew members are reportedly Indian. India's Ministry of External Affairs has condemned the strikes as deplorable and has reiterated that targeting civilian mariners should be avoided at all costs. Alibaba's AliExpress has been hit with a $629 million fine from the European Union for failing to tackle sales of illegal, unsafe and counterfeit products on its platform. The fine is the third issued by the European Commission under the EU's landmark Digital Services Act. India's youth-led Cockroach Party movement has stated that Federal Health Minister JP Nadda has promised the government would weigh its demands internally as thousands of protesters in India's capital, New Delhi, marched towards the parliament. This comes after nearly a month of protests by the CJP. The Spain national football team has returned home after being crowned 2026 FIFA World Cup champions, receiving a hero's welcome upon landing at Madrid airport. Earlier, Spain edged Argentina 1-0 after extra time, bringing an end to Lionel Messi's title defense and completing an impressive unbeaten campaign in which they only conceded 1 goal in 8 matches. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. Russia and Ukraine have traded fresh accusations after another deadly day of attacks as the war continues to escalate on multiple fronts. Russian officials have accused Ukraine of killing at least 5 civilians in a drone strike on a bus in the Belgorod region, which borders Ukraine. Regional authorities have stated that more than 20 people were also injured. Ukraine has not commented on this particular claim. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has stated that his country continues to target Russian logistics and military infrastructure. He has stated that Ukrainian long-range strikes have hit an oil depot, 2 Shadow Fleet tankers and 4 dry cargo ships in the Black Sea. The latest exchange comes just hours after a Russian strike on the Guinea-Bissau flagged cargo ship Golden Leo off the coast of Odessa killed 10 crew members. The vessel was carrying corn and had a crew of Indian, Syrian and Ukrainian nationals. 8 survivors have been rescued. Meanwhile, Russia has also continued its overnight missile and drone attacks across Ukraine, with fatalities reported in Odessa and Kramatorsk. As both sides step up long-range strikes, the conflict shows no signs of easing, with civilians continuing to bear the brunt of the violence. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Robert Fantina, author and journalist, joining us from Ontario in Canada. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. There have been a rapid succession of developments over the course of the day. Russia has attacked a cargo ship off the port of Odessa, which is Ukraine's largest port, MV Golden Leo. It had a crew of Syrian, Indian and Ukrainian members. The captain, the pilot, has been killed. There are also 4 Indian crew members out of 10 in total crew members on the ship who have also lost their lives. At the same time, Russia has put out a fresh statement emphasizing that there have been strikes that have killed civilians in Russia's Belgorod territory. Ukraine has not yet commented on this particular claim. But if we take a look at the larger picture, yes, fighting is taking place on the front lines. Military logistics hubs are being attacked, but civilians too are bearing the brunt of this particular war, which continues 4 years on. Ever since 2022, we've seen how Ukraine, despite the asymmetric nature, has managed to hold on. What do you make of this particular escalation that has taken place?
Well, there are a couple of things. One, of course, Russia wants to degrade Ukraine's economic ability, economic structure of its country. That will cause suffering of the people and more unrest, and will help the Russian cause, which is certainly an unjustified cause. The fact that civilians are bearing the brunt of the violence is typical. It's been said that the first casualty of war is truth. The second is often innocent civilians, and that's what we're seeing. Countries like Russia, United States, Israel, as we see on a daily basis, don't care about civilians. They bomb them. The United States opened its war against Iran by bombing a girls' school. But this latest escalation only indicates that there is no resolution in sight. This will continue for an extensive period of time, the Russia-Ukraine war. It's tragic for the people of Ukraine. It's also impacting people in Russia. It's tragic for them too. But this is because a couple of reasons. One, there are some world leaders such as Putin, Trump, Netanyahu, who only are interested in violence and in expanding their power and profits. And it's more evidence that the United Nations is a complete waste of time. It hasn't been able to resolve this issue in 4 years, the Gaza genocide in 3, and has done nothing to end the war against the U.S. war against Iran. So we're seeing an escalation in war making in the world, which bodes very ill for everybody who is on the planet. And this latest escalation by Russia in bombing this cargo ship and killing its members is just part of that. One thing, though, that Russia did that the United States didn't do, the survivors of this ship were picked up either by Russia or someone else. But
Ukraine.
When the United States bombs ships in coming out of Venezuela or other areas of that part of the country, it then does a secondary bombing to kill the survivors. So it's even more barbaric. But I think the outcome of this, the evidence, this is giving evidence that wars are increasing in the world, and that's just making it a much more dangerous place to live.
Indeed, we've at the same time over the last couple of weeks seen sustained strikes against Russia's shadow fleet in the Baltic as well. The war is continuing on multiple fronts, and recently there was a very interesting statement by NATO members, and the NATO military chief has warned Moscow that it would lose a lot by attacking the Baltics. Of course, Russia has not escalated in the Baltics, but there would have been some reason that the NATO military chief has come out to even issue this warning in the first place. NATO's military committee chief has stated that the alliance at large is prepared for any Russian move, including touching Poland or the Baltic states. There are analysts that have pointed out that Lithuania might be on Russia's radar. How fair do you think this particular assessment is? Will Russia engage directly then with NATO, since the war, we've practically seen it still taking place and being in a limbo over the last couple of months?
At this point, I don't think Russia is looking at anything beyond Ukraine. The Russian government expected this to be a quick war. It's, as you mentioned, ground on now for over 4 years. It's of course, it's in addition to what it's doing to Ukraine, it's degrading Russia's military capabilities because they're using so much weaponry on Ukraine. So I don't think at this point Russia is considering its next move, its next attempted military takeover. The current one has not been successful. It isn't progressing in anyone's favor, Russia or Ukraine's. It's, as you said, kind of stalemated at this point, although the violence continues. So I think NATO officials are prudent to be cautious and to issue various warnings. I don't think, from everything I see, that there's an immediate threat at the present time.
Indeed, and coming to Ukraine as such, we've seen internal upheavals. There are protests taking place. This is perhaps the second such protest against the Zelenskyy government ever since the war broke out in 2022. It's over the sacking of their defense minister, who's rather young. He's been credited with sort of ensuring that technology is adopted. He's been credited with ensuring the strikes on Russian refineries deep into their territory, on the shadow fleet as well, bringing in newer, more novel methods into warfare that is now changing owing to the nature of where we stand on the technological frontier at large in the world. And Zelenskyy has acknowledged that yes, the defense minister and the commander-in-chief of the defense forces, they've not been seeing eye to eye. But while dealing with a war, at the same time a domestic crisis as well, how do you think Zelenskyy will take this forward, sort of balance the two?
It's a difficult challenge for Zelenskyy. He's dealing with the war with Russia and with unrest at home, mainly, or at least partly, related to the war. He, like any other world leader, deals with the egos of the military and the conflicts between them, and I think that's what we've seen in this particular situation that you're pointing out. So it's hard to negotiate or to navigate these sorts of situations, but this sends a signal to Ukraine and to Russia that the Ukrainian people are not as united as they might be expected to be when they're being attacked. We've seen a lot of support for the Iranian government in Iran against the United States, but we're not seeing that same level of support for Ukraine against Russia. But we have to also remember the Ukrainian people have been dealing with this for 4 years. They're tired, they're frightened, they're impacted greatly. Many of them have lost loved ones, they've lost their homes, their livelihoods. So there's a lot of frustration there, which is understandable. And Zelenskyy has to navigate that, while he's also attempting to defend the country from Russian aggression.
Absolutely, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking further updates. So we're tracking some breaking news that's in fact coming in. US President Donald Trump has stated that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not be arrested while visiting the United States despite continuing international legal controversy surrounding the Israeli leader. Now, in a post on Truth Social, Trump has stated that Netanyahu would not be detained in any way, shape or form during his time in the US. He defended the Israeli Prime Minister, stating that he was fighting against Iran and has accused Tehran of irresponsibility for years and also bearing responsibility for violence against Americans. Trump has in fact stated that those who should face arrest are Iran's leadership, claiming that they were responsible for what he described as a spiral of death and destruction. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has added that the situation should have been dealt with by the previous US administrations. These have come as tensions between the United States and Iran remain high, with the region continuing to face military escalation and diplomatic strain. Trump's comments are of course likely to draw further international attention amidst the ongoing conflict. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Robert Fantina. Interesting points here. There is a case against Netanyahu at the International Court of Justice, which has observed that he's committed war crimes as far as the situation in Gaza is concerned, as far as the lives of Palestinians is concerned. US, of course, is not party to this, And US President Donald Trump now, despite the fact that there were reports of friction between the two leaders, he's come out and now written on his social media platform that Netanyahu will not be arrested while visiting the United States of America. He has pinned the blame solely on the Iranian leadership, calling what's been happening a spiral of death and destruction. What do you make of Trump's open backing of Netanyahu at such a critical stage of the war where the interim MOU has collapsed?
We'll have to see in time what he has promised Netanyahu and what Netanyahu has promised him, because Netanyahu led him into this war, told him it would be quick, it would bring about the end of the Iranian regime. None of those things happened, and it's too late for it to be a quick war now, and there's no sign that the Iranian regime is collapsing by any means. So Benjamin Netanyahu lied to Trump to get him into this war, and Trump was furious about that. But now I think part of the reason that he is saying that there will be no arrest is that New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani is looking into the legal options for arresting Netanyahu, and Donald Trump is trying to circumvent that, because although his initial meeting with Mamdani was very positive, he resents that he's very popular, and also that he's a democratic socialist, something that is just a huge monster in Donald Trump's eyes. But also, Trump's statement that you played a moment ago has so much in it that needs to be addressed. He talked about how it's not Iran against Lebanon, it's Lebanon's aggression. He didn't say anything about the genocide that Israel has been committing for 3 years, where at least 72,000 people have been killed, and it's estimated that hundreds of thousands more are still buried under the rubble.
Yes.
He said that the U.S. or that Iran has been killing Americans. Where is the evidence of that when Israel has assassinated nuclear physicists for years? The United States started this war by killing 120 schoolgirls and has killed thousands of people in Iran. So this is more nonsense from Donald Trump, more of his continued hypocrisy, his continued lying, and expecting that the world will believe it. The evidence is very clear. One doesn't have to look deeply to find it. It's all there. The United States is the aggressor. Israel is the aggressor. Israel is committing genocide. Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested. And the other point is, why is the U.S. government inviting a world leader who has been accused by the highest court in the world of war crimes to speak to Congress? This, again, shows the lack of morality of the Donald Trump administration.
Indeed, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for having taken out time, shared your assessment and analysis with us on NewsX World. On that note, viewers, we're tracking some further breaking updates. US President Donald Trump has issued another very strong warning to Iran, vowing a tougher military response if any more American troops are killed during the ongoing conflict. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump has stated that every time Iran kills an American soldier, it would pay for that killing many times over. He has stated that the directive had been passed to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Dan Kane, and military commanders. The remarks come as the US has confirmed the death of another service member in northern Iraq, bringing the total number of US military personnel killed since the start of the war to 17. American forces have also reported hundreds being wounded as Iranian missile and drone attacks have targeted US bases across the Middle East. Donald Trump's statement, of course, signals that Washington is prepared to respond even more aggressively to any future attacks on US personnel. US has already carried out multiple rounds of airstrikes on Iranian military targets, while Tehran has continued retaliatory attacks against US assets in the allies in the Gulf. The latest warning comes as fears grow that the conflict could widen further, with diplomatic efforts now struggling to keep pace with the rapidly escalating military confrontation. With us on the broadcast is Mr. Surinder Singh Lali, foreign affairs expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. We've seen this sharp escalation take place, but at the same time, we got reports, and this was confirmed by the Iranian side as well, that yes, back-channel diplomacy is still underway. Mediators are proposing a 10-day cessation to the strikes that are being traded in order to bring both parties back to where they left off as far as the interim MOU is concerned. But despite that, now we're seeing Donald Trump stating that every time Iran kills an American soldier, it would pay for that killing many times over. How do you decode this statement? Does this showcase the unwillingness of US to return to the negotiating table because they are trying to pressurize Iran, on the other hand, to come back to that very same table by carrying out these strikes?
Thank you. It's such a pleasure and honor for me to be here. And let me start by saying Donald Trump has lost it. It's not a memorandum of understanding, it's a memorandum of misunderstanding, because it was a war of choice. I mean, every few weeks they kept changing the subject, if it was regime change, or if it was fighting for the rights of the civil society, or if it was for the nuclear. And now the Strait of Hormuz, which was already open, it's closed, and now has to be open. So I don't know how to explain, because I don't think Donald Trump did any due diligence or any war room exercise to see what they were heading into. They thought it will be a Venezuela, they will go and find a Dulce Rodriguez and then do a regime change, but lo and behold, they find a King John II instead. I mean, Iran has surprised America far more than, in fact, anybody across the world thought. Because Iran had been preparing this for 47 years. And on top of that, China and Russia are right behind Iran. So where is Iran getting all the targets from? You know, where is Iran getting all the intelligence from? Where is Iran getting all the missiles from? I mean, they've recently bombed Kuwait. So pinpoint, and they've been penetrating the Iron Domes in Israel / in the Middle East too. So I don't think anybody knows what Donald Trump wants, because he keeps changing his stand. And Iran knows one thing for sure, that Donald Trump, by every passing day, has his back against the wall because of the midterm elections and the gas prices and affordability and other internal issues in the US. So Iran is simply playing a game of patience where, you know, even Netanyahu would be facing elections in October, and things don't look good about him either. So Iran is playing a game of patience because Iran is already against the wall. I mean, you know, it doesn't have a, you know, army or an air force to defend. But it is understood that instead of attacking Iran, they simply attack America. They attack the GCC countries. And Donald Trump doesn't have the patience or the due diligence or the intelligence to deal with Iran. So it's going to be very tough. And unfortunately, I don't see an end to it in the near future also, because there is no method to the madness. And Iran knows that with every passing day and the gas prices, and, you know, unfortunately, one American died. Yes. So gas prices and body bags coming to America will inflict a lot more pressure on Donald Trump internally, because that's when he can see the midterms really slipping out really fast. And that's where you see Donald Trump is also internally trying to get into the gerrymandering and challenging the election process and saying that, you know, we need voters list and la, 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 because they've understood, America's understood that Iran is not what they expected or anticipated. They've gotten far more. And I'll make you one more point. You know, let me complicate this a little bit. For me, this is, you know, Cold War 2.0. Why would China allow America to be in Iran so close? Let's understand, this is a fight between China and America. You know, Donald Trump threw tariffs at China. China stopped their rare earths. Then, number two, America went and choked their energy requirements by getting Venezuela, who was the highest seller to China, and who's the second highest seller to China? Iran. So this is a proxy war played between America and China, where Iran has full backing, Not only is Iran an intelligence state, IRGC is pretty, in layered society. It's not like a Venezuela where you could have picked up somebody overnight in a Nike tracksuit, because it's a civilization. So on many fronts, this is far more than what meets the eye. This is America versus China, where Iran has been surprising America and the state of Israel. As the previous speaker was saying, that, it was Benjamin Netanyahu who's been cornering, Donald Trump, and I don't know, maybe the Epstein files, because Ghislaine Maxwell was Jewish, so was Jeffrey Epstein, so was Robert Maxwell. So maybe they have enough intelligence and Epstein files against Donald Trump, and that's why Donald Trump is not able to control Israel. As they say, there is not the dog wagging the tail, it's the tail wagging the dog, where Benjamin Netanyahu has been controlling the United States of America and the American might.
Indeed, and you've answered most of my follow-up questions, so I'll just take one more. I was speaking to certain defense analysts, and they had pointed out that Donald Trump is looking for an off-ramp. It is very obvious. It's just that he's trying to preserve his strongman image. And one thing they pointed towards was the fact that stockpile of missiles have been reduced to less than half, whether it is the offensive ones or the defensive interceptors as well. And you mentioned China, the fact that China is curbing access to rare earth materials, that is disrupting the supply chain of manufacturing these missiles at large as well. Yet, despite this, despite Trump wanting to preserve the favor that he has with his MAGA voter base that voted him to power in 2024 on the basis of his promise that under him there will be no war, everything is going to be fine, the troops are going to come back, and the fact that he was elected to power because of one of these reasons, and the second part of it being the fact that we've seen oil prices rise, we've seen gas prices rise. Accordingly, petroleum products in which petroleum is used as a raw material, those prices have increased as well. That is impacting the American consumer, and the midterms are around the anvil. So with all of this working in favor for the fact that Donald Trump should ideally go for an off-ramp, why is he not then taking this opportunity, and why is it still back to square one?
The answer is a three-word: EGO, ego. There's a beautiful phrase which says that in the game of ego, I repeat, in the game of ego, it's the loser who ends up winning. So Donald Trump is not a politician. Let's understand, 5 bankruptcies and so many convictions. He's somebody who's a mercantilist individual who's only dealt with the banks. And he thought that politics was as simple as that. I mean, has the Ukraine war finished? And Donald Trump was on record saying that he'll be able to control the Ukraine war by the time he's been driven after taking oath, to the White House. And it's gotten worse. Iran, he's been saying he'll do it in weeks. So answering your question is that Donald Trump needs an off-ramp. You're absolutely right. But he's a man full of ego. I mean, look at the way he had to be almost ushered away by the Spanish team when they were getting their award. Or look at the way he's been treating the G60 countries. Look at the way he's been treating NATO. Or look at the way he simply wanted to annihilate Iran overnight. I mean, these are ludicrous statements. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was right on record, and so was the governor of Illinois, that they should, they should enact the 25th Amendment and have a psychiatric evaluation done, because he keeps contradicting himself. And let me tell you, even in this contradiction, he's playing the markets. Somebody's making a lot of money there. I mean, this guy who managed this teleprompter made money, and he's been under scrutiny. So this has been far more complicated, and Donald Trump has to understand that when you are in a hole, you stop digging. So he has to lick his wounds and understand. Otherwise, he's going to keep extending. And Iran is very good in playing in the game of patience. because, as I said, it's a very educated society. They've been under tariffs for 47 years. They are all uh, they've understood that how Donald Trump has to be dealt with. And your second question about the depleting stockpiles, I mean, China and Russia are the biggest gainers out of it, because America has to shoot their missiles, which are probably 200-300 million, and Iran comes back with a $20,000, and more than half of their ammunition is finished. So China has understood how America works, where are the American weaknesses, and for now, China to take Taiwan will be a piece of cake, because they've gotten all this research of America, of American strength, of American weakness, especially in this part of the world, for free, even without investing in a single bullet or a single cannon or a single missile being fired. So China and Russia are the biggest gainers out of it, and China in specific, because as you rightly said, that they have gotten this research for free and they know where to hit America next and how to hit.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for having taken out time sharing your analysis, insights with us on NewsX World. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus to the United Kingdom, where amid a major cabinet reshuffle under new Prime Minister Andy Burnham, John Healey has been appointed as the UK's new Chancellor of the Exchequer, taking charge of the country's finances. Healey's appointment comes after a series of resignations and dismissals as Burnham moves quickly to install a cabinet that reflects his new government's priorities. A veteran Labour politician, Healey has served as the Member of Parliament for Romarsh and Conisbrough since 1997. Now, over the course of his career, he has held several senior government roles, including Treasury Minister, Housing Minister and Local Government Minister. He's also served as Defence Secretary before stepping down earlier this year. As Chancellor, Healey will now be responsible for the UK's economic policy, public spending and the government's budget. His appointment is being seen as a key part of Burnham's effort to reset the government and deliver his promised long-term plan for solving the cost of living crisis and revitalizing Britain's economy at large. Well, viewers, due to paucity of time, this is all we have for the World Report. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.